Well, thank you. I won't stand behind the podium. That's not the kind of guy I am. I'm a campus life coordinator also at St. Paul American School, Beijing. I'm usually walking around quite a lot, so I apologize in advance. Actually, I just wanted to start this out by telling you there's a secret to why I'm ending this presentation rather than beginning it. You may not know this, but Zach promised me for every minute I go over to get us closer to 7 o'clock, he's going to give me 30,000 won, right? Not RMB, but won, which is pretty good, you know what I mean? So get yourselves comfortable, because I'm planning on buying a new motorcycle later on this year. So just kind of relax and kind of work in there. As also the Dean of Students of St. Paul American School and the Professional Development Coordinator, it's kind of interesting to reflect on this whole workshop, you know, as a person that's kind of following up at the end. And you know, see a lot of the similarities that, you know, our staff and myself have to everybody here in the room and how they're contributing. You know, it's really kind of fascinating because it reminds me of the challenges of things that I'm going to talk about, which is campus life and campus culture, and how the challenges you see in your classroom, you know, getting students involved in something, can be the same as an administrator looking at a teacher trying to get them involved in something like campus life and campus culture. Three things that actually I want to revisit later on in the presentation. Number one, finding value. Number two, levels engagement. And number three, relevance, which were all elements in presentations throughout the entire day. And if I'm really as good as I think I am, I'm going to put that in here somewhere. So here's the outline. First, what does it take to build campus life, campus culture? That's what we're going to talk about a little bit. The basics aren't as mysterious as maybe you think, I would say. Where to go from there, creating something unique, something regular, buy-in, and then how to maintain it. And the example I'm going to use, of course, is going to be St. Paul American School, Beijing, because that's, you know, where I'm from. Pretty simple stuff that way. And it's also kind of a success story. And obviously this isn't going to apply to Jinju, it's not going to apply to Tokyo exactly carbon copy, but what I hope this presentation will do will provide you with some insight and ideas of the struggles that we've been through collectively to get campus life to kind of take off in Beijing. So here we go. Teacher moment. Raise your hand. No, just kidding, right? Foundational elements of campus life. Give you a hint. I think there are two. What do you think they are? No wrong answers except for the answers that aren't on the board. So just give it a try. I think two.
Student buy-in.
Student buy-in, okay, yeah.
It's got to be deliberate.
Deliberate.
You have to plan ahead. You can't just hope that it happens.
Planning, absolutely, yeah, that's a thing. All right, this is going to shock you. You ready? First one, discipline. Second one, no, just kidding. Attendance. Discipline and attendance. And I'm going to kind of explain why discipline and attendance, especially for the Beijing school, was so important to make sure it was concretely established before campus life can be built. Why is it? Yeah, well, first of all, frees up time. That's in time for classroom. That's in time for administration. That's people who don't have to think about getting Billy. Billy is my favorite student, by the way. I made him up. Billy gets in trouble, so he's always my example, right? Billy has to get to class on time. Teacher's got to find that student. Teacher's got to take attendance, mark him tardy, put him in the books. That's got to go to your dean of students, assistant principal, whatever. They've got to talk to Billy, get him on time. Later on, there's detentions and suspensions. Man, that's a huge chunk of time taken up because of attendance. Discipline, too. Drinking, smoking, whatever those issues may be at school, obviously not in the middle school kids unless they really get started early. You know, taking away from the positive focus of what the classroom is about. Okay, we got to tell Billy to stay awake in class. We're talking about classroom management in here. That takes away the time that we need to spend to say, hey, Billy, you're doing a great job. Let me reward you for doing that great job and reinforce the behaviors of something good. Everybody has, like I said, more time to focus away from the negative and more towards the positive. So in this vein of discipline and attendance, there are some solutions. Number one, I'm sure everybody's got one, a handbook. Who doesn't have a handbook? No, don't raise your hand. That's embarrassing, right? A complete handbook, which is clear. You know, when I came to St. Paul American School 3 years ago, we had a handbook and it was a little bit kind of ambiguous. It was a little bit vague. And I think that was because things weren't completely concreted down. But it helps in a way to have all the rules written down for the students to understand so they know what the expectations are. Consistent and fair follow-up for discipline. You know, everybody gets the same detention or the same warning the first time. A proper orientation, which is something that I think, you know, our school, I haven't seen your schools, I'm sorry, but, you know, our school does even better every year. And full cooperation of, you know, the staff, which is kind of a tough thing. That's part of that relevance and that buy-in. Are teachers really interested in correcting Billy's behavior? Or are they there to talk about what they know on a screen and they, you know, they let Billy sleep the entire time? So getting that all on board stuff actually builds into the solution. What will that do? First, students understand what's expected of them and they prepare for those expectations ahead of time. They don't learn the rules in October, they learn the rules in August when they start school. And that helps them get their road started. Early intervention on adverse behaviors, this kind of goes across, I'm sorry, I was a little unclear on that. Right away, let's say Billy is late to class, the very same day or even the next day, the dean of students or whatever the disciplinarian is goes and visits Billy. Billy, you were late yesterday. It's identified right away. He knows, or she knows that there is going to be a response for the things that that person is doing. Focusing on positive behaviors early, increased availability to, you know, use resources in a different way, and then fewer eventual disciplinary issues. And then you could say, well, this sounds pretty cool, but, you know, where's the data? And I say, well, I got data. So we got some correlation here. This is actual data and numbers from St. Paul American School, Beijing. It's broken down in a very, very simple method here. So what I started on was 2016, 2017. Down to 2000, you know, the next year. And then this is our current year here. I know we're only through one semester, but even if these numbers were to double, we'd be less in the discipline you know, issues that we had over the last 3 years. And at the same time, there's a correlation, starting with identified positive behaviors by teachers. You know, the same period, there's nothing in 2015, 2016, but fewer positive behaviors identified early on in 2016, 2017, a lot more discipline. And there's not a landslide, I'm sorry to say. I'd love to put up like a magical slide here and be like, yeah, whew, we're up so much, you know, in discipline behaviors, or down discipline behaviors, but I know it's going to be around 1,000 disciplinary reports at the end of the year. That's life. But we can still see that there is an uprise in positive behaviors on the other end of it. So I do believe that there is a correlation. There's a connection between lower disciplinary issues, higher positive behavior identifications here. All right. So the overall result, a desirable place to be, place that kids want to be, and kids want to achieve something that's positive for themselves. They want to be known as a positive contributor to the campus with a good reputation rather than someone who got famous for being OSS'd or ISS'd for whatever it is that they're doing. All right, so I'm going to take a pause. Anybody have any questions so far? I'm also catching my breath, you know, that's one of those things. Okay, whew. Here we go. So where do you go from there? It seems fundamental in elementary, but building what we have now as campus life and campus culture at St. Paul American School, because it is a complicated system. It's a complicated system of a program and a program on a school campus. And not everybody gets access to the resources at the same time, or, you know, in some cases not at all. So gathering resources, finding your inventory, and accounting for facilities in detail may be important to you. You may be fortunate enough to own everything on that campus and say, well, the gym is ours and that employee is ours. We're going to send our kids to the gym to do whatever activity at whatever time we want. Sometimes it's more complicated, like the Shanghai campus and the Beijing campus. Sometimes it's a shared facility situation, a shared resource situation. And knowing what you have and what you don't have, and when you have it, is part of building the plan that you're going to make. A schedule even can be pretty complicated when you're sharing a gym, or the gym shut down, or whatever it happens to be. So what's missing? Things that might be available, like I said. What can be used, and then thinking creatively, you know, this is just one of those things everyone puts on a PowerPoint. You know, kind of thinking outside the box and pushing the envelope is really important for campus life. And so then brainstorming. The ideas that I'm going to present to you today that at St. Paul American School Beijing came up with was kind of just like this strange, I don't know, what would you call that, convergence of minds. Steve and I we were sitting in a classroom thinking about campus life, campus culture. And at the same time, one of our top performing students was also kind of thinking about the same idea. And there was this shared Harry Potter vision in our heads, and all of a sudden, we had something to start with. And that was kind of our brainstorming process, looking for goals, looking for themes. And I put this down here because this is basically how it happened. Two administrators sitting in a room and a student contributing turned into the idea, a shared idea that now is really taking off at our campus. That's really driving the school culture at our campus. Okay. And then from there, positive behavior. I put this slide up before with the statistics, but this is how we started out when we switched over to the positive behavior all-star system, 2016, 2017. It was kind of an isolated thing. It was kind of a Dean of Students identified program where the Dean of Students would be looking around, finding a student, say, hey, that was a positive thing. And at the time, I think we had maybe 12 or 15 positive behaviors identified in the school, which turned out to be up to today, since we're getting more teachers involved and more buy-in into this, more relevance to the teachers, we're up to 170 halfway through the year, 121 ending last year. So again, if numbers continue the way they are, this will be about 300. We just buried it from the year before. And is that a measure of progress and a measure of success? I would say so, because that means more students are focused on things that they can do for the campus and things that they can contribute, and less on what they get away with or how tuned out they are. It's also a positive reinforcer. Like Billy gets in trouble, he doesn't pay attention in class 99 out of 100 times. Except towards the end of the semester, his teacher says, hey, this kid's turning it around. Gives me the certificate, or the go-ahead to give him a certificate. I'm in the room and in front of all his friends, I call him out, hey, turning things around. That's a positive behavior. Congratulations, you're doing a great job. And sometimes, hey, we know how kids work. Sometimes that's the boost they need. That's the thing that they needed to hear in order to, the next semester, get in on the attack and start things off the right way. Sometimes it's just a friendly reminder in the middle of the year when midterms come around. Hey, you're doing a great job. Keep up the great work. They may be feeling down. I have the hormonal teenager group, nobody else wants. And sometimes that's what they need. Sometimes they want to hear those kind of things. All right. And then it gets into something unique for the campus. So positive behaviors, I think that's a pretty universal thing. I think a lot of schools do the positive behavior system in one facet or another, on one scale or another. But finding something unique for the school, that could be a really interesting challenge. So I threw a quote up here because that's what all PowerPoints have. Salvador Dali says, those who do not want to imitate anything produce nothing. And I think that's totally true. If you start off thinking about campus as something you need to make totally and absolutely marketable and unique from the standpoint of zero, you may not produce anything at all. You may not be able to build anything because it's so unique that people may not understand it, or it's so unique that people may not want to be bought into it, which we're going to talk about, a little bit of buy-in there. And so sources for inspiration are pretty much everywhere, as you know. There are movies, there's music, theater, academic institutions, etc. For our school, St. Paul American, Beijing, I'm just going to say Beijing, it's just easier. We started out with Ivy League schools. We started in imitating, we had Cornell, Princeton, Yale, and Dartmouth. We used these logos to build the basis of what we came up with, which was Harry Potter style houses, which kind of eventually blended in with the Game of Thrones, and now we have something called the Game of Houses. And so we've successfully ripped off 3 franchises at the very least, you know what I mean? Which is pretty impressive, but kids they're into it, you know what I mean? They see Game of Houses and then maybe they think of the music, that's what I imagine, Dun, 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 dun. They're like, yeah, I better cut off somebody's head. Probably not, but they get into the Harry Potter thing. We watch the Harry Potter movies all the time as part of our campus life program. And, even though this has been forgotten, kids still remember how things got started, some kind of relevancy to them, as we talked about, throughout this workshop. getting them involved. And this is what we have. Wow, pretty cool. So the SPAS houses, Oceanus, Hyperion, EOS, and Atlas. And we have been bought in enough at this point that we now have a teacher house, which is probably the hardest house to get motivated out of all these things. You know, at the end of the year, students, student houses over here, they enjoy some benefits of winning what we have made as the House Cup, which has been a controversy. They get a 1-week uniform pass, which is like, whoa! They get a 1-week study hall pass. They study in the dorms instead of the building, which blows their minds. And they'll go after positive behavior certificates because they earn them 5 points for their house. They'll go after any sort of in-classroom points because the teachers have points. They have 100 points per classroom teacher to give out as motivators inside the classroom. And they'll hound them they'll hound them down. They'll go after teachers saying, hey, didn't you see what I just did? It was positive, right? Huh? Like a positive behavior, and they'll get those points in. Teachers will wait to the last minute to be dramatic at this point and dump every point they have into a house, 100 points, just last minute, in order to help their house out. So it actually has grown a culture within this point system in these houses. It wasn't easy to get off the ground, for sure, but the culture is there, and it's building every year. Originally, it was a 3-year plan. Yeah, you know, it wasn't really realistic. I'm like, yeah, sure, we're gonna have, you know, bracelets and T-shirts, and then by the time 3 years is in, everyone's gonna love the system. 3 years is come and gone. This is more like a 5-year plan at this point. You know what I mean? It's just about being realistic in things. But every year it gets a little stronger. Every year students come in, orientation, just like that discipline and attendance thing, setting the foundation. Students know about the houses before they start. And they start with the thinking, hey, that's something I want to contribute to. You know, I know about it early enough. I want to be involved in that. Rather than, this is a school with a bunch of rules and I'm going to do whatever I want. You know, things like that. We do have a lot of rules. It's the truth, right? Teacher house, you know, this part of the two years of that 5-year plan at the very end, getting teachers involved can be pretty tough. Getting teachers involved can be kind of like getting Billy involved, you know, in the classroom when he's not paying attention. He doesn't care. There's no relevance for some teachers. Some teachers do believe that the things they say in front of a screen is more important than the kids' participation in campus life and campus culture. It's true, you know. Some of them just don't buy into it at all. Some of them don't have any value in the things that campus life and campus culture create. The kids do, and it's a secret, especially for teenagers, I find. They'll keep it a secret until all of a sudden they're there at your office begging for 20 house points for something, you know. But yeah, somewhat unique, I guess.
I have a good question about that.
Sure.
I was talking about setting up a house system in our school.
Yeah.
And one of the problems we predicted would be sort of the conflict between students of different houses. Would it lead to like sort of like a gang mentality? And like how to like mitigate that a bit.
Yeah.
Have you had that? Has that been a problem that you've noticed, or has there been any particular strategies that you've used to try and make it a bit, you know, not as cutthroat?
Well, we had to expel a couple of the Crips and Bloods. They were becoming a real problem, gunning people down for those. Yeah. No, it actually has been. It's the most important thing that I've thought about with campus culture is making everything into, I know, happy, positive things, but there's no losing house points. There's only gaining house points. It's only for positive things. You know, you can't make somebody lose their house points. You know, you can't compete against somebody to do better in one particular thing, you know, to make yourself better than them. It's basically, it's an individual or a classroom, you know, based thing. And our homerooms are based on the houses. So everybody in the same homeroom is in Hyperion, you know, whatever. They become more of a team. I will say this with one caveat. At the very end of the year, we have field day. And then we put, you know, 4 corners, 4 houses, and everyone just goes berserk. And they hit each other with water balloons and water guns and everything like that. Usually it's me, because I am the dean of students. And it's like, revenge! And they come right after me. Okay, I could take it. But other than that, it's not violent. You know, it's not divisional. You know what I mean? If anything, it brings the houses together a little bit more. And then friends between themselves, some of the best performing students will actually have better friendships. But, you know, I guess it's contextual also. I wouldn't want to do this in the middle of, you know, like New York City or something, or, you know, like a, you know, high risk, you know, neighborhood or anything, because maybe it would. But our kids, as it is, they'd rather be together than apart for sure. Yeah, add.
One thing before we had this, we had a problem with cliques in our school, right? We have our Chinese kids would hang out with our Chinese kids, our Korean kids would hang out with our Korean kids, and our international kids would hang out with the international kids. And while that's still true to an extent, like the houses are a way to force them to interact with each other. So instead of creating division, in some ways it's actually reduced division.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're not saints. It's not the best campus in the entire world. We're not flawless or anything like that. We do have our problems. We do have, students who will cling to different, either cultural, groups or whatever it happens to be, gender groups, anything like that. Does it dilute that? For sure. I would say more than anything else, it does. Is it there yet where I can say it's the perfect utopia? No, definitely not, because it's a 5-year plan now. When I get to 5, it'll be a 7-year plan. Yeah.
When you said when new kids come, they participate, do you place them in the houses or do they pick, or how does that work?
We do it through Power School. Yeah, it all links together. We got this whole universe. Yeah. So as soon as they're into Power School, they're placed into a house in a homeroom. They meet their house, and they meet their homeroom teachers. Part of the buy-in for the teachers has been now they're a leader of the house in a way. And so actually the students hold them accountable for allowing them to get points for their house, things along those lines. And actually it's linking together. In a lot of ways, we didn't expect this to come the way it came. We thought this would be like a 1, 2, 3 color by numbers procedure. And it's been extremely organic, And that's why I can say I'm going to give you some ideas, but it's not copy-paste, nothing computerized about it for sure. All right, any other questions before I move on?
Are there any mentoring systems built in, using that? So like different grade kids from higher up in the same house, and how have they worked?
Yeah, well, part of the complication is we have a pretty, I don't want to say long, but we have a pretty full, that's a good one, full schedule for the day. And we've tried to figure out how to make student leaders out of this and fit them in, but it always conflicts with something else that we're doing. So, that's the 7-year plan, yeah.
You'll have like a monthly assembly or a quarterly assembly?
We do it, by semester. We do an awards ceremony, and actually...
Be any way to integrate these houses into that, kind of break them into groups?
Absolutely, yeah, and that's something that, as a project, as the Dean of Students that I'm taking on, because I'm the student council mentor now, I'm the host teacher, is getting them involved to bring the houses more to our awards ceremonies and to basically the kids that they connect with, because student council, they're the most popular kids in school, that's why they're with me, but they've also got the most influence. So it's a step-by-step process for sure, yeah. This coming awards ceremony, they're going to put out, we've got banners now, these really large banners with these on there. They're going to put them out, they're going to have a video, and hopefully that'll even bring it further. Okay, and something regular. And when I say regular, for campus life, it's kind of a simple thing, but to have something that's scheduled and accessible by everybody, that can tie into house points, that can tie into something that students can rely on. Friday movie night is something that we do in Beijing. We also do a Saturday or Friday activity. Sometimes that's, soccer or in the gym. Sometimes that's, karaoke. Sometimes this is a blindfold game that they came up with. Student council leading the way on this. I leave it up to them. I say, what do you think? What do you want to do? What do kids want to do? How can we get kids out of their dorm room, away from their computer and their video games, and into one of these things? And then as they're coming out of these dorm rooms, they are getting involved and they're getting rewarded with even more house points. Yeah, I saw a hand. Oh, wait.
Yes,
Yeah.
Are all of your students dorm students?
No, there are 20-something day students at this point. How many? 20-something, yeah, around 20-something, but 238 students total on campus this semester. It's going up to about 265 as far as I know for next semester.
So almost all.
Almost all of them, the vast majority. But the day students also get to participate in these things. And one thing that I can see almost as an unofficial evaluation, students are asking to stay late and get passes as day students to stay late on campus so they can participate in some of these things because they're more interested in campus life than ever before. And it's small increment. I'm not making this out to be perfect. It's 1 or 2 kids every once in a while, but that didn't happen before. So there are some improvements. All right. Okay. And then buy-in. All right, so this comes with the story before I play this video. It's stressful to get a whole campus involved in something that administration believes in, obviously. Some of you know that from experience. It's stressful to get teachers bought into an idea that in your heart is going to be good for kids. And so this kind of unfolded naturally. And you're going to see me in this video. You're going to be like, who the heck is that guy? And yeah, it's me. But this was about a mystery of the House Cup. And the story goes basically like this. We have a teacher named Mr. Terraby. Mr. Terraby decided that he wanted to steal the physical House Cup from my office because he thought, steal the House Cup from the Dean of Students, that's a great idea, right? And so he sent a student to go steal the House Cup from my office, not really realizing that I check CCTV every other day. Found the House Cup as it was inside the student's room, the very same day, basically. Stole it back, but then played it like I didn't know where it was. And inadvertently turned into this basic, massive campus culture hunt for the House Cup. The entire time it's in my apartment. But I'm telling people, I don't know where it is. It must be somewhere on campus. And I was offering all sorts of rewards for the House Cup. And we only had a little bit of interest. This was, last year. We only had a little bit of interest in the House Cup at the time, in the house system. But for some reason, this phenomenon, which didn't happen in any plan whatsoever, turned everybody on to the House Cup. And everybody was out to get points, and everybody was out to find it. So SPA's Student News, they did a really good video about this. Is there sound?
Yeah, it should come out.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Hopefully we can hear the sound. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
Make sure.
You gotta be quiet. You gotta read it quiet.
House Cup is grabs
Yep.
again this semester. House High Period was the winner last semester, and Gold enjoyed a uniform and study hall pass for the last week of the semester. Now you can see there's no decoration. Could be anybody to win this semester's trophy. I have a bounty to offer to you. Not an announcement, but a bounty. Now, over here on my desk used to be the House Cup, but it's gone missing. Now, the House Cup, you accumulate points, you get a 1-week uniform pass for your house, you get a 1-week study hall pass for your house, but the House Cup has been stolen, and along with it, all the points have been stolen too. So you might have noticed 0 points for everybody. Now, here's what I'm offering you guys, bounty hunters. Look for the House Cup and find it. And if you find it, I will give your house 500 house points. Where I'm here with Mr. Terraby for an interview about the House Cup, which is still missing. So, Mr. Terraby, I have a few questions for you. Mr. Terraby, what are your questions? Well, do you have any suspects in the theft of the House Cup? And if so, could you tell me that? Well, I do have some suspects. Some people have been very suspicious. As a matter of fact, I identified with my CCTV spell that Jeffrey Cho took the House Cup in a bag and left with it, but he claims it's disappeared. Another form of magic, perhaps. And on that exact note, boys and girls, let's get serious. I am offering 500 house points and a 1-week uniform pass for the one student that brings the House Cup back to me. Thank you, Mr. Terraby. See ya. Boys and girls, I have another House Cup announcement to tell you about. It's still not back. So I'm here with a final offer. I am offering 500 house points, a 1-week uniform pass, and a 1-week study hall pass for the one person that brings me back the House Cup. Now, you may be thinking, I'm going to even go higher than that. Nope, this is it. This is the last time, the last announcement, and the last offer you get. I am awaiting eagerly a possible suspect, but I've had my office inspected. I've answered enough questions from Mr. Terabee that hopefully my name has been cleared, but I guess we will see. 2, convince Mr. Aiello to confess to his crime of stealing the House Cup last year. Good afternoon or morning, boys and girls, depending on when you're seeing this. I'm Mr. Aiello, the Dean of Students. Alright, that's enough. I'm here to talk about 2 very important things, maybe even 3 very important things. Important thing number 1, the announcement of the winner of the House Cup will be on January 18th during homeroom. That means there is a group of people, maybe Oceanics, maybe Eagles, that will be winning a 1-week uniform pass and a 1-week dorm study hall pass. So you're going to find out January 18th who is the winner. Number 2, also on January 18th, if you bought a house t-shirt, you can wear your house t-shirt on January 18th with khaki pants and a Spies jacket. You can't wear jeans, you can't wear a Gucci jacket, you gotta wear a Spies jacket, khaki pants or khaki skirt, and your house t-shirt. That's second announcement. The third thing is, there's some shade going around the school. Mr. Terry keeps accusing me of stealing the House Cup over and over again. Let's just get the record straight. I happen to have here a confession note from Jeffrey Cho stating that he stole the House Cup. And let me tell you, I saw it on CCTV with my own eyes. I don't know where it is. I don't have it. This is all just defamation. And that's the final word. Have a nice day, everybody. See you later.
All right, so I did steal it, obviously, yeah. The kind of thing that this video, I didn't even, obviously, the SPA Student News, when they did this, it kind of showed how things were growing and how things had kind of metamorphosized, and to the point where we were selling house t-shirts. You know, we were getting more people bought in, you know. We've got a lot more swag, so to speak, or drip, depends on what generation you're in, I guess. You know, coming up for the house and for a lot of the campus, basically a lot of the campus school spirit. You know, at the end, Oceanus won. A teacher, you know, the very same teacher who accused me of stealing the House Cup, really pushed their homeroom to get positive behaviors. And it changed basically the way he talked to his classroom in the morning. Instead of, you know, okay, everybody have a nice day, he would go around and say, what's your plan for getting a positive behavior today? You know, how are we going to get some more points for our house? And then other teachers heard about this, and in homeroom they started doing the same thing. And so this ever-expanding culture, you know, just unexpected ways, you know, keeps moving. And it's really just about getting people bought in and letting it kind of grow naturally and really not giving up. And part of it also is, oh, that animation didn't work very well, putting it into the basics of your, you know, a little sneakily maybe, but the basics of your handbook system. Every handbook that we have now has a page about the houses, the house points, and the house competition. And so teachers coming in first time, they look at it and they say, oh, you know, this is a thing that's going on. This is something I'm expected to participate in, something I can get involved in. You know, students, the same thing. They have a handbook. The handbook has the houses in it. They learned about it before they're in. They're engaged before they step foot on campus.
So when you give a kid a house point,
Here we go, yeah.
what does that, do they have to just collect them and just accumulate them, and then what do they do with them? They give them to, do they all get counted in like a big thing at the end, or what do they do?
Teachers have a website they can log into, and it just takes away from their totals of 100 points. Their login is the same as their initial Power School and ID, Power School ID and password, right? Was it, you said? Yeah, they could change their password later on. Other than that, they can send me an email saying, hey, I'm out of points, but, you know, Billy did a really great job. Every time they do a log entry, that is a positive behavior log entry, I make them a certificate for the kid, and then they get 5 points that way also. So it's all just done electronically, yeah, for sure.
What's that? Is it a particular website or is it plug-in?
He built it, yeah. That's why I keep him around, yeah, yeah. And so, We got to get the teacher house in there. And so the continuation elements of campus life, there are two things. Throw it back to you. What do you think they are? How to continue on campus life, building campus life.
Discipline?
No, not discipline. We're done with that. We got that. Those are the things that started it. We're good. Yeah, we could lay that one. I'll just let you know. Enthusiasm and really a die-hard attitude. That's what I've learned. From the administrative staff and the students that really would not let the idea die about campus life, campus culture, and the houses. At times there were two of us. At times it was just two people pushing the entire school to get involved. And now it doesn't have to be that way anymore. Now we've got 236 students, and probably half of them at least are bought into the system, which is, it's a pretty good turnover there. So, last slide. Questions? Anybody? Yeah.
How do teachers get house points?
I have initially just been kind of just giving house points kind of freelance, you know what I mean? Mr. Taraby in particular, he gave up 3 students for Sports Day, which is one of our big events. And I bought those students as announcers for 1,000 house points. There's no structure to it. It's all corrupt, basically. Yeah. The teacher...
Never win. I don't know why.
Yeah, we never really figured that out. Yeah, but sometimes teachers do nice things for students, and students will lately come to me and say, hey, Miss Cat gave me an apple for lunch. I didn't have any other anything else. I didn't have time. And so I'll go to Miss Cat and I'll give her, positive behavior star. We didn't really formalize that because we weren't sure about the buy-in, but now they're buying in. So now we can kind of formalize things. So it's pretty organic. Yeah.
Yeah, they should have a casual dress pass for a week.
We've been talking about that. Yeah, it's been a thing. Yeah, yeah. Any other questions? All right, cool. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Yeah.